It was just after midnight when the quiet hum of fluorescent lights filled the deserted hallways of the corporate headquarters. The building was empty, save for the echoing footsteps of the undercover CEO, disguised in worn jeans, an old sweatshirt, and a faded baseball cap. No one in the company knew his identity tonight. For weeks, he had been blending in as a low-level maintenance trainee, determined to see firsthand what life was like for his employees, the ones whose names were often forgotten in boardroom meetings. He had worked side by side with janitors, security guards, and cafeteria workers, hearing their stories and silently absorbing the truth about his own company. But on this particular night, he stumbled upon something that would change him, and his business, forever. He was restocking cleaning supplies in the far end of the building when he noticed that the supply closet door was slightly ajar. Curiosity tugged at him. Pushing the door open gently, he found a man curled up on the floor, his head resting against a rolled-up uniform jacket, fast asleep. At first, the CEO thought it might be a case of laziness, someone hiding from their duties to take a nap. But as he stepped closer, he noticed the exhaustion etched into the man's face, the dark circles under his eyes, and the way his hands still clutched a half-empty water bottle. His work boots were worn thin, and the broom beside him looked as if it had been dropped mid-task. Not wanting to startle him, the CEO quietly backed away. But something inside wouldn't let him just walk off. The next morning, still in disguise, he sought out the man, who introduced himself as Robert. Robert was in his late 50s, with graying hair and a polite smile that seemed to hide years of struggle. Over lunch in the employee cafeteria, the CEO gently asked him about the previous night. Robert's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "I didn't mean to fall asleep," Robert began softly. "It's just, I've been working double shifts, and I live 2 hours away by bus. By the time I get home, there's barely time to sleep before I have to come back." The CEO listened intently as Robert explained that he had taken on extra hours to pay for his daughter's college tuition. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier, and he had been doing everything he could to keep his family afloat. "I don't want her to struggle like I did," Robert said, his voice breaking. "I'd rather wear out my body than see her give up on her dreams." The undercover CEO felt a knot in his throat. This wasn't just an employee, this was a man carrying the weight of love and sacrifice on his shoulders. The idea of him sleeping in a supply closet wasn't laziness, it was survival. Over the next few days, the CEO worked alongside Robert, watching how he treated others. He noticed the way Robert greeted the security guards by name, how he quietly fixed small things that weren't his responsibility, and how he made sure the newer employees felt welcome. One evening, the CEO overheard Robert telling a younger janitor, "We may not be wearing suits, but our work matters. If we don't care, the whole place falls apart." That line struck deep. When the week ended, it was time for the reveal. The CEO arranged for a company-wide meeting, telling employees that a special announcement was being made. Robert, unaware of what was coming, sat in the back, still wearing his faded uniform. The CEO stepped onto the stage, now dressed in his usual business attire. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder as people realized who he was. He began his speech by talking about the importance of every single role in the company, how the people behind the scenes were the true backbone of the business. Then, he shared Robert's story. "This man," the CEO said, gesturing toward the back of the room, "has shown me more about dedication, humility, and love than any business seminar ever could. He has been working tirelessly, not for himself, but to give his daughter a better life. He didn't ask for recognition, but today, we're giving it to him." The CEO announced that the company would be providing Robert with a significant raise, reducing his hours so he could rest, and covering the remainder of his daughter's college tuition. The room erupted in applause, and Robert sat frozen in disbelief, tears forming in his eyes. As the CEO stepped down and walked toward him, Robert stood up slowly, shaking his head. "I don't know what to say," he whispered. "You've already said it," the CEO replied, gripping his shoulder. "You've said it every day through your actions." In the weeks that followed, word of Robert's story spread through the company like wildfire. People began treating one another with more kindness, more patience. Managers made an effort to check in on their staff. Employees started opening up about their struggles, and support systems began to form. Robert's daughter graduated a year later, with her father sitting proudly in the front row. The CEO was there too, cheering as loudly as anyone. Robert never forgot that night in the supply closet, not as a moment of shame, but as the turning point where someone truly saw him. And the CEO never forgot either. From then on, Every decision he made carried the memory of a tired janitor sleeping on the floor, holding on to a dream bigger than himself. It became a reminder that leadership wasn't about power, it was about care. Sometimes, the most profound changes in a company don't come from big strategies or expensive consultants. They come from moments of genuine human connection, moments when we pause to truly see the people around us. And sometimes, those moments start in the most unexpected places, even a dimly lit supply closet. In the end, Robert's story became part of the company's culture, a legend told to new hires as a reminder that everyone matters. And for the CEO, it was proof that when you lead with empathy, you don't just change a business, you change lives. That night, long after the applause had faded and the office was empty again, the CEO found himself walking past the same supply closet. The door was open, the room cleaned and neatly organized. But in his mind, he could still see Robert there, worn out yet unbroken, holding on to hope. And he smiled, because he knew that the company, his company, had finally woken up.